Let's get to the reason we're here tonight, which is Christina. This is actually Christina's 6th time speaking here. And, last time it was the 5 times. So any SNL fans might know about the 5-timers club, where the people that have hosted SNL 5 times, they get to go in the swanky club and they get these fancy robes and stuff. So I just want to welcome Christina.
Where's my robe?
Yeah, I thought about getting a t-shirt or something. I just didn't have time. Sorry. Maybe with 10. When we get to 10, I'm very excited to have her here tonight. She is an educator, as she said. She's a lecturer at Stanford, and she has a great course there. Actually, some people from the meetup help out with that course. She's worked at LinkedIn, Zynga, MySpace, and Yahoo in various roles in product and design. She was the founder of Boxes and Arrows back in the day. She's written these 4 books plus the other one.
Present Yourself, yeah.
Present Yourself. It's the 5th, but I need to add. There's not even room. She's such a prolific author. There's not enough room on the slides for all of her books. Way back in the day, she wrote a book on information architecture. Radical Focus is probably the one that she's known the most for. It's in its 2nd edition. I definitely recommend you subscribe to her blog, Elegant Hack. She's a very thoughtful writer, has a lot of great posts there. So Christina's going to be talking to us today about how to craft better OKRs with AI. So with that, please join me in giving Christina a warm welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask some questions. Raise your hand if you use Claude. Wow. Raise your hand if you use ChatGPT. Raise your hand if you use Gemini. I love it. You guys are like me. Do you use it every week? Every day? Multiple times a day? Yeah, you're nerds. How many of you have used ChatGPT to try to write your OKRs? Oh, not many. Okay. Well, did it work for you? Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I feel. So the real problem here is that when we use AI, we miss out on a lot of the things that make OKRs work really well. So for example, copy pasting the goals that no one owns or understands. If you just have it generate a goal, assuming it doesn't make all your KRs into tasks instead of results, it doesn't do a very good job. Part of it is we're outsourcing our thinking, and there was a study fairly recently that showed that people who use AI to write then can't answer questions about that work that they present as their own. So you got to try to avoid that. And then it's missing organizational knowledge that comes from those struggles. So I like to use AI as an amplifier. I like to think of it as a partner, thinking partner. So the objective, quick OKR 101 again, is our objective is qualitative and inspirational. I always say that when I wake up in the morning and the alarm goes off, if I want to go back to sleep, it's not a good OKR. But if I'm like, today, this is the month where we're going to change everything, and try to have some excitement to it. A lot of people skip that, and I think it's important. And then key results are quantitative. Typically, we have about 3. Going up to 5, I think, is fine. Sometimes just 2 is fine. Sometimes just 1 is fine. Just really make sure each one really is meaningful. How would we know if we met our objective is the question it answers. How would we know that we were successful in our objective? So what really makes OKRs work is not all this. I mean, you might as well just use SMART goals. SMART goals are lovely. But the cadence is what makes OKRs work. Every Monday, you make a commitment. There's usually a short meeting, and you all say, this is what I'm doing towards my OKRs. And by doing that, you're constantly reinforcing, remembering that we set them in the first place. So talking about setting, can we use AI to set OKRs? Yes, this is the wrong way, which sounds like people have seen. But just for fun, I'm going to do something I never do because I'm insane. I'm going to do some live GPT stuff. But basically, okay, so there was a typo which I left in, because I thought it was interesting that it caught. I have to figure out where my mouse wandered off to. Yay, good work. Okay, it says it's got a clean executive ready. Can't use my touch. Okay, so increase revenue. It gives you 3 to choose from. So this is going to be the problem, is you didn't internalize any of this. I love the why this matters. The thing is, ChatGPT is already better than it was in November. 5.2 was a huge step forward. So it's not as bad, but it's sort of like, pick one of these 3, I don't know if we can do this. We'll see. Pick one of these 3. Grow average order value without degrading customer service. These are actually really good objectives. Huh? Are they good for your company? Are they good for your company? Indeed, exactly. But I'm liking the fact there's not many tasks. It's all numbers. It's all measurable. They're terrific. They're just generic, and they aren't yours. So you're right. I think that's a good point. Is they are not yours. So let's go back to this, and go back. Let's see if this will get us back into the flow. Yes. Okay, that's great. Okay, cool. So it doesn't work. Generic goals, nobody cares about. You're not invested. You didn't come up with it. It's not based on any of your data. Can you move those numbers? Can you not move those numbers? Who friggin' knows? What's really missing here is the team buy-in, the context, and the real knowledge. So I think brainstorming it is really good. I think it's a terrific idea. The way we always do it is set up, I do it with my clients, sorry, is we set up that first objective. People work together on that. And then we do silent free listing, where everybody comes up with a metric, as many metrics as they can to measure it. And then we do a sort together to figure out did people come up with the same metrics? Are they good metrics? Are they bad metrics? Is it an interesting one? And then once you have that first OKR trial state, that's when you can switch over. So here, our objective is customers love us so much they become our sales team. Our KRs are NPS 8, 25%. So imagine that this happened. What are the potential failure modes? So let's try this. I'm going to regret this, aren't I? Okay, we're up there. Let's get a new chat up. What a great idea. Kill that. We don't need a pencil. I don't know what it'll do. ChatGPT always kisses my ass. You did great, Christina. You're the awesomest. Claude was much meaner to me when I ran this earlier. So objective. So measurement mode, failure modes, the OKRs look green, but it really isn't. NPS 8 becomes meaningless. That's because it should be 80. But it doesn't catch that. Claude actually caught that that wasn't a real NPS number and asked me if I had done something wrong. So that's one moment already that it's catching. Timing bias, score chasing. So this is really great. Can the team need to specific behavior? Referrals go up, but quality goes down. So you got to get the idea. It's basically spitting out pretty good critique. I'm pretty happy with it. And it wasn't even Claude. That was ChatGPT. Okay, our objective is customers love us so much they become our sales team. Oh, I already did that. That's one of my favorites. What behavior, what might we accidentally incentivize is another really good query. A lot of times when we overemphasize on a single set of goals, we end up having these bad people trying to do something like, for example, you probably all remember when Wells Fargo everybody had to have 8 products, 8 is great. And what happened is they ended up having people sign people up for products that hadn't agreed to be signed up because they wanted to hit those numbers. So it's one of the hardest things about making OKRs is actually trying to avoid gaming of the OKRs. And so this would be a great plot for being able to avoid gaming. We want to measure customer love, but NPS feels weak. Our customers are B2B sales. What other metrics? So I think you've all seen how good the GPTs are at coming up with ideas. Like I'll say, give me 100 product ideas for something, I can't remember what, and it just did, and it broke it into sections. Like you can say, give me 15 ways to measure whether or not I'm successful at my objective. And you can also ask it to list anything, really, and it's really, really good at that. Okay, explain this OKR from an engineer's perspective versus a salesperson perspective. That's another great way to do it. Like, let's say you've got an OKR and you know it works for your team, but does it work for your partners? Ship an MVP that delights customers. What other way could we do it? I want to see what it comes up with, so I'm going to escape out and try running that. I might try to see if I can get Claude over here too. Come here, Claude. Good, Claude. Stay. Start a new chat. The silence where we listen to Nina's beautiful snores. So it did a really good job of helping it. Any complaints? Or somebody laughed, so I want to make sure it's working. I like that. This is why delight needs a measurable key result. Very true, very true. That's because Claude is sassy. That's why we love our Claude. Sorry, I have a strong preference. I'll go on a quick tangent. Like I said, I've only given this once, so I can wander off. I don't know how many of you read I Love Generative AI and I Hate the Companies Building It, but I went on a deep dive to research what model I should use. And basically, Claude is the least evil. The reason I say least evil is because they're all based on copyright infringement, and as an author, I have feelings about that. So I always recommend Claude as the one to use. It's also a better writer and a better coder, so I tend to feel warmly in that direction. OpenAI is second on the list, it's because Sam Altman, if his lips are moving, he's lying. And, for example, we will never have ads. This is a horrible business model. Whoops, we got ads now. See what happened? So that's one thing. Then we get up to Meta. I don't think I have to explain why Meta is problematic, but they have leaked people's information several times. There have been several scandals on it. And then Grok. Grok is pure evil. Not only does Grok have built power generators, they used power generators are supposed to only be used for emergencies to create the power for their data centers, and it went up and poisoned a huge community in Memphis. As well, of course, the latest thing where you can now use it to make non-consensual pornographic images, including of children. And he was like, oh, that sounds bad. I'll put it behind the paywall. So apparently Grok's business model is now pornography. Good for them. So I don't touch Grok. So I feel upset that nobody talks about the ethical stuff at all. They're always like, well, ChatGPT is better at this, or Gemini is better at this. So like, Claude is better at making ethical decisions. They get a little weird about the AI. Recently, I don't know if you saw that they put up their constitution and they're talking about not being mean to the AI. It's very important we don't let users be mean to the AI. And while that's a little weird, I also kind of feel like it comes from a good place. So sorry, I had to go off on a short tangent because I think it really is important to think about what are we contributing to when we're using AI. I'm not giving up AI. AI is here to stay. I just try to minimize the evil that I offer to. Okay, so if we're working on Claude to do AI, I should have asked, how many people are using Claude Code? Oh, not so many. Okay, but still some. So this might actually work out well. So I was surprised to see how few people use projects. Projects is really amazing. I'm a heavy projects user. So projects. So you can see I have a lot of projects. And what you want to do is you're going to create a new project. What projects are doing for you is they're basically creating a little box full of context. So what you're going to do here is I'm going to say Q2 2026 OKRs. What am I trying to do? Set my OKRs. You create project. Okay, so once you have a project, and I apologize for people who already know this, you can Knapp. Over here, we're going to have instructions. Oh, here we go. There's instructions. There we go. So instructions. And if I could get over here to cut and paste something. Sorry, I'm slow. I should have practiced this before, but I didn't. So here we are. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab custom instructions that I've written. I'll show them when I come back. And I'm going to put this here. Oh, I didn't get a cut and paste. Sorry. That's the old one. You're so patient. I find personally the sound of Nina snoring very comforting. It's very relaxing. There we go. Okay, save instructions. So you can, before I say them, you might notice, ask clarifying questions first. This is the single most valuable thing. In my own custom instructions, I actually have, at the system level as opposed to project level, I have ask me questions until you're 70% confident you know what I'm talking about. I was told that won't work, but it does seem to actually be working for me. So something to think about. Before, I just said ask questions, and it was happy to just ask questions endlessly. And then files. So we're going to upload some files, and I invented some upload from device. I invented a few questions we can use, a few things we can use for projects. If you haven't used projects, this is such a game changer. I'm kind of blown away. Oh, it's not on this machine. Is it? Oh, no, it is. Okay. Claude, oh, it doesn't want it? Claude Code can unzip files for me, but I guess this won't. That'll teach me to do a live demo. Okay, let's try that one more time. By the way, I know Claude likes Markdown, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't care that much. I seem to be fine with docs or anything else. I'm trying to teach myself Markdown. I resisted it for a long time. And then so what I uploaded was a strategy doc and a PRD for a major project. Claude is so sassy. I do too. I love it. So it's not letting me get away with anything. So this is what I mean by going back and forth instead, is it will push back on me because of the instructions that I put in. And so, and I will say, sometimes I think the AI is lazy because it'll be like, well, what do you want? And I'll be like, no, you tell me, and back and forth forever. But this is a pretty good result. Did leadership commit to option A? You're trying to write OKRs before this is made. Yes, they love it. So there. See, these are good questions. You know what? It would be even better questions if you can add radical focus or portions of radical focus to the context, because then you'll have the best practices. If not, you can put in something in the instructions, something like key results should always be results and not be tasks, and that helps a lot. But using the instructions and the files makes a huge difference. Not a shocker there. But when they talk about context engineering, this is what I think of. I think about what's the right context to be able to do things. So it helps the human beings. It helps human thinking, not instead of it thinking for you. And that's what I think is really my point. But the thing is that the struggle to figure it out creates ownership. I don't know if you're familiar with the IKEA effect. It's a well-known human bias, which means if you actually try to build it, you have a deeper attachment to it, you value it more highly. So if you bought a $20 lac table and you put it on Craigslist, you're going to ask $20 or maybe $25 because I already assembled it for you, as opposed to what everybody else is thinking. It's like $5, right, for lac. Lac's a sad little table. But the struggle really creates a lot of ownership, so people are going to be much more committed to what they're trying to do. Okay. The second thing you can use it for is weekly check-ins. Yay, weekly check-ins. And like I said, when I talk about cadence, it's really critical to do your check-ins. So this is a classic Friday status email. I have always hated status emails. I used to write ones that were like 3 pages long and it said every single thing that everybody in the company were doing. And instead, this is a really short one, and it gets read. The difference between ordinary status emails and this one. So the important thing is we have our OKRs at the top. Every time we are writing out OKRs or talking about OKRs, we are moving the OKRs from our short-term memory to our long-term memory. We're actually changing our neurons. So the repetition is incredibly vital. If you want people to be making decisions when in the heat of the moment, they'll make better decisions. So basically, the OKR is up there to get you right again. Think about confidence. I'm a big fan of confidence over any other kind of measurement. Confidence is just how likely do you think we're going to hit this? And it should be going up and down every single week. If anybody has a question, you can interrupt me because, like I said, it's a new talk. Last week, blah, blah, blah. What were my P1s? What were my P2s? But the important thing is looking at those not dones, they each have a little piece of information about why that happened. And then next week, what are you planning to do? This is so whoever you send it to. When I was at Zynga, we sent these emails out to mailing lists, and then anybody could subscribe to the mailing list. So it was a way for me to keep track of other teams and what they were valuing. And that way, when I had to go horse trade with them, it was much easier to do. I could go up to them and I could say, I know you're trying to do this. I can help you with that. Can you help me with this other thing? And reciprocity is, of course, a persuasion strategy.
Christina, which part was the confidence?
Oh, sorry. The confidence, let me see if this works. Yay, it's this right here. 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 1. So if you're super confident, it'd be 10 of 10. If you have no confidence, I find that the last 2 or 3 weeks of, maybe the last 2 weeks of the quarter, my confidence goes to either 0 or 10, or maybe a 9. And I actually never add confidence in the first 2-3 weeks because you don't know anything. It's too far off, right? It should be 5 out of 10 when you start. You should have a 50-50 chance of making it. That's the degree of difficulty. There are politically unsafe companies where you can't do that, unfortunately. There are places where you have to sandbag. I hate to say it, because when I first started talking about this, I'd be like, no sandbagging, 50% confidence, moonshot, let's go. And now I've talked to so many people who are suffering that I'm like, okay, instead of a stretch goal, maybe we can have a yoga stretch, just a gentle, So it's
the watermelon status?
What?
Have you heard watermelon status? Green on the outside, red on the inside. So everyone's like, lying.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Yes. Watermelon status. I love that. That's fabulous. Last line? Yes. I always loved sitting in on usability because I could hide, and B, I always got my best ideas while watching usability. It's a nice dark room where you're watching real users interact. Of course, you're going to get ideas. What were you going to say?
I was just wondering, how did this come from? How did AI help with this?
It hasn't helped yet.
Okay, gotcha.
But this is something I make. So you don't use AI to write your status updates, obviously. That's pretty good. Although, to be honest, if you can't type very well or spell very well, or if you're insanely blunt, I have to admit that I sometimes have AI take a quick look at my emails because I suffer from all those things. But you don't ask it what its confidence level should be. You should know yourself. Because when I'm thinking about confidence level, I'm really going back and forth and asking myself, how do I figure this out? How do I figure out how confident I am? What's happened? Again, the repetition it's about your brain. It's about your brain. I keep telling my students, you got to manage the care and feeding of your brain. It's very important because you can become stupid with AI very easily. You don't miss the reflection that drives learning. Again, repetition helps learning. But you can use AI to find hidden patterns. So here are our last 4 status updates. Our confidence in KR keeps dropping. What patterns do you notice? So I'm going to daringly do one more, at least, live thing. Let me see if I can get this over here. Where is Notebook LM? Oh, I didn't open it ahead of time. So one of the first things I did, I don't know how many of you use Notebook LM. Oh, there it is. I already had it open. But a big fan. And I think what Notebook LM is really good at is taking huge amounts of data and pulling out insights from it. I'm sure Claude Code could do it too, but I really like the fact that you can get a podcast out of it, you can get charts, you get data. And so what I have been doing is I've been using personal OKRs to run my life since I don't even know when, like easily 15 years, I think, which is really freaky because I can't believe it's 2026. But yeah, so I used it even before I wrote my book, and my book came out in 2016, so maybe not 15, maybe 12, but still. And personal OKRs are basically, what's the number one thing I want to do as an individual this quarter? And then I have my ways of measuring it. And I wrote these in email, and I was able to get Gemini, actually I used Claude to pull out all my status emails. And what it's really good at is things like, here's what a status email looks like. Sometimes it has a different subject line, find them all. So I found them all, saved them as PDFs, uploaded them all. So this is, like I said, 12, 15 years of status updates. And now I can ask questions of it, which is pretty amazing. So one question I like is, what is the most common way I miss my P ones? What gets in my way? And I love being able to query it. But I also like the podcast. Actually, the podcast kind of freaked me out because like, well, Christina Wodtke is like this, and Christina, I'm like, you're talking about me. But there we go. Mind maps are really great. I'll click on them when it's done thinking. Slow thinker. I love thinking, don't you? Like watching it come up with saying what it's doing. I really enjoy that. It's going to be embarrassing. Oh, only a little embarrassing. I sacrificed personal maintenance health to prioritize work obligations. Yeah, I left industry, but I didn't really leave industry, did I? Sacrifice the body for work? Yeah, it knows me pretty well. I feel like a very ugly mirror has been held up to me. But I've wanted to be able to do this for a long time. Overcommitment, the inability to say no. See, I told you, Dan. And physical and mental health barriers. So I have seasonal affective disorder. I'm not ashamed. and caretaking. So it's really, the first time I did this, I was, oh, because it just saw me so well. It really hit me hard. So this is something you could do if you can pull out all your status emails, and let's see if we can get a mind map out of this. And the thing I like about mind map is it makes it very easy to navigate all these. And you can do, I haven't tried a quiz yet. That'd be funny. Come on, mind map. Oh, it's there? I'm starting to learn that I don't see very well. There we go. So now I can explore, like, oh, what's my OKR journey with writing in projects? God knows I use OKRs to write books. But it's just a great way to do a deep dive into the body of data. Sleep well, little dog. The early grind, I feel 2013. Okay, now we know how long I've been doing these. Oh my God. See, launches, revenue focus, tension between writing. So this is a pretty big deep dive, as you can see. I really do think Notebook LM is still the best for this sort of thing. So let's go back to the deck. There's my mouse. So being able to do deep dives like that is super valuable. Context, generating hypothesis. I like this one. I don't have metrics to paste in, but you get the basic idea. Tried these 5 things to prove activation and all failed. So getting out of solution fixation. Solution fixation is a real problem. So a team that I was working with was really stuck on activation. Why can't we move activation? Why can't we move it? So AI suggested they were solving for individual users instead of buyers. So it was a great idea. Completely changed their approach. So use AI to see what you're too close to notice. And finally, retrospectives. Retrospectives are incredibly critical. At the end of each quarter, you've got to do an evaluation. Once again, I know probably a bunch of you are agile people. Retrospectives are super powerful for learning, and you want to be a learning organization. There are 3 approaches that I've seen to evaluations. There's binary, which is we either made it or we didn't. The problem is that if you really are setting 50% goals, not making it is going to be super depressing, right? So it is simple, it is fast, we either made it or didn't, but you have to have a certain fortitude of your soul to be able to do it. It doesn't show progress. It doesn't give you that feeling that we got close. Like, you don't want to say I made it or not when you actually got an 8 out of 10, and I got to say I didn't make it. That's depressing. Decimal, this is what Google does. It does allow for some nuance, but I think the grade becomes more important than learning. Everybody wants to get 0.8 or whatever. Qualitative, this is my favorite one. It's very learning focused. It's not about whether you made it or not. Instead, you're telling a story of what happened. What did we learn? It's a true retrospective. So binary, oh, I already talked to these two. Done or not done, not done. This was a binary one I did for myself, but I think I made the right choice. I can feel good about not done because I had a level of quality I wanted. You could argue that this was a task rather than a measurable, but I can measure what I think of as quality. Excellent games, depression and anxiety managed more than 80% good days, 8 out of 10 not done. But that's a win. 8 out of 10 is a big win. 80% good days is terrific. And see, the binary would be too cruel. Decimal can show progress. I hate progress because there are some things, like let's say you have a key result and it's past the product council. You know, we get reviewed and funded by, that's a yes, no, you know. But it's a really important one. So you can't have binary, non-progress based key results if you want. So qualitative ignore scoring. This is done by Pendo. I do not recommend any OKR software. Pendo's not the worst one you could try. You should check it out and see if you like it, but I'm a big fan. I think getting software is sort of like in New Year's when January 3rd you buy an exercise bike and then it just sits there and gets covered with clothes. I think that buying OKR software is not a great choice because you don't even know. Do I want a bicycle? Maybe I want to swim. What happens if I change? Is it going to take? You're all lean people, obviously, since you're here. So you know the importance of running small experiments. So I always say to my clients, start your evaluation process just using the tools you have. I've seen Trello used, I've seen Google Docs, I've seen Google Slides used. And then once you've figured out how OKRs are going to work for you, then you can select a piece of software or build one now since we can all vibe code. Don't have AI I'm going to argue that the AI is good enough to summarize what happened now. And if you are handwriting all your status emails, you've done the work for your brain. You are now smart enough that you can let AI summarize it. I am a big fan. This one is true. Don't use AI to avoid uncomfortable truths. That's why we don't trust ChatGPT, because it's too cheerful. Use AI to challenge your conclusions. That and Sam Altman is a liar. AI to challenge your conclusions. Am I going to get sued over this video? Oh, well. Okay, so challenge your conclusions. Again, if I had some data here, but what are the explanations? What would disprove our hypothesis? These are good questions. Team A learned X about customer behavior. What meta later? This is something that's really hard to do. And I think this is a place where a human and an AI might be neck and neck on figuring this out. We all had our OKRs, but I lost bigger customer morale. What questions should we be asking ourselves? This one I do get really good results on. In fact, this might be one more place to. There we go. Let's do one more little demo. I feel like I'm starting to get a handle on it. Okay, let's go back to Claude because he's the funniest. The other thing about Claude is this is my main Claude, and it knows me, and so it knows what good OKRs are. There you go. I love that it always gives us this like fun headline. It's really good at headlines. So this is what I mean by getting it to help you think. It's asking you hard questions. It's really making you dig in deep. Okay, back to this. Okay. So this is the thing. This is a potential answer. One of my clients ran into this problem. They hit all their KRs, but they missed that they optimized for the wrong person. So sometimes there's deeper underlying things. They were asking, did we launch instead of did we launch with the right people? And aiming at the wrong people is, as you know, a very common situation. So you have to own the learning. Okay, so basically the meta framework is before meetings, prepare better questions. You can use AI for that. After meetings, process what you heard. I'm a big fan of transcripts. I hate summaries. Summaries almost always miss out. I've been using an AI note taker for a while. I find that the summaries almost always miss really important things, so I'd rather read through the transcripts and do my own summary on that. I haven't seen one that catches like the subtlety and the nuance that I will see. But processing what I heard, like, did they actually say that? What do you think? Between cycles, find patterns across quarters. That's the Notebook LM. It's, like I said, my favorite. During conflict, understand other perspectives. So, sorry, I'm reading slides to you. Okay. You need to debate. You need to argue. It's really important. You need to disagree. If you're not disagreeing, there's probably no psychological safety. Confidence levels is a gut feel. You're training your gut. There's a wonderful quote I love, which is intuition is compressed experience. And so I always think of the carrot feeding of my gut. How am I working on my gut? Intuition. I read something a long time ago by Peter Drucker that has stayed with me, which he said, if you practice making predictions, you can learn how to do it. And I've discovered this is very true. Like if I guess at A/B tests, I start getting really good at knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work. If I guess at OKRs, I've gotten better tuning. And I have to always tell my clients, you know, your first time you use OKRs, you're probably going to fail. But then each successful one, you'll get better and better and better, and your tune will get better and better. This is something sometimes they struggle with. And then grading performance misses the context. And I think that's just one of those things where people should just write it out. So asking AI should be like using GPS in a city. It helps you explore more efficiently. Has anybody, now that we have Google Maps, has anybody realized that they don't remember where places are anymore? Oh my God, it's the same thing with AI. You have to be really careful what you outsource because you lose that. I was in San Francisco and I was like, oh wait, I can't remember how to get from the Mission to the Tang because I've been using Google Maps so much. And maybe that doesn't matter. So you can use AI for the stuff that doesn't matter, but be careful when you do use it. It's augmented thinking, not outsourced thinking. So I believe very much that the most valuable parts of OKRs are often uncomfortable. It's saying to your boss, no, we're not going to make those OKRs because of X, Y, Z. Or, hey, I see that this is your goal, but don't you think this other goal is really the one we should be going after? It's important to lean into that. And you can't have those conversations well unless you've been taking care of your brain. So each time you run into these things, any of these things that are listed here, you really got to ask yourself, what is a better way? You can go to the AI and say, hey, So I've been lying to myself about progress. Ask me hard questions. I fight with Claude all the time because I've trained it to not be agreeable. And I will ask you questions like, this deck, and I'll upload the deck, didn't land right. Any ideas why? And it'll come up with a dozen ideas why the deck didn't land right. It's really amazing. I keep asking it to do more and more. I've heard this from various podcasters too. You just start asking yourself, with everything you do, how could AI help? And there often is a yes. It's also a really good therapist, sort of. Not a real therapist. Please do not use it for mental health. But it's really good when you've had like a fight with somebody. You're like, what? What else could I do? How can I do it? It's a good coach, maybe. It's a terrible therapist. Please don't use it for therapy. But you can't avoid AI. We just got to figure out how to use it well. So this is what I always say to people. OKRs are very simple and they're very hard. They're exactly like eat less and exercise more. That's a good way to lose weight, right? Who can do that? It's really tricky. It's really tricky to do. And OKRs just require you to set really good goals, stick to them, and that's the hard part, is the sticking to them. That's why the weekly cadence is so important. And then learn. You want to be a learning company. So AI doesn't make them easier, but it can make them a lot better, especially for coming up with key results. I really love it for that. Okay, so use AI to generate 10 ways that your OKRs could fail, and have the courage to bring it up with the team, which is awfully hard. AI struggle smarter. We'll go back. Okay, that's all. Thanks, folks.
All right, so we can open it up for questions. The one rule we have is you have to have a mic to ask your question just so we can capture it for the video. So feel free to raise your hands.
You gonna run the mic?
And we'll run the mics around, yeah. We got mic runners here.
Oh, you're gonna run the mic.
So I've been through this OKR exercise at a number of companies, and I don't think I've ever had it run as clean as this. So I'm kind of curious, when you talk with folks where they're required to come from the top and ladder up and down, how could you even use this process? Because you're working on someone else's that are probably completely divorced from this kind of reality check.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. One thing I've found that's useful with the AI is that you can explain that to the AI and say, please help me. What do you recommend? But it's probably going to recommend the usual things, which is you've got to, I personally, when I consult, I work with the CEO, and that makes a big difference, or at least a C-level, somebody C-level, CTO, CAPO. And then I actually didn't get hired. I started telling people who were talking to me, asked me to come in, I've started telling them, I'm very blunt. Can your CEO handle it? And I actually had a couple of people say no to me because I was too blunt. So there are going to be situations where it's hard to do. I think one thing that's really useful if you are in a weird situation is to have shadow OKRs. So basically, I know, creepy, right? The team actually comes up with their own OKR set that they're aiming for, and it should be related to the bad ones that have been handed down. Like it should be, A and Q, it should be A and B, but B could be a much better written one. But this is one of the hardest parts. I'm going to be really super honest with you guys. This is one of the hardest parts of consulting on OKRs is that there are people who I genuinely think are kind of doomed. And it's really sad to talk to some folks. They're very excited. They really want to do things the right way. And there just isn't the psychological safety because of the top-down micromanaging. And my only answer to that, in a good economy, my answer is quit. In a bad economy, I'm like, you got to move slow. One of the number one things I've learned is that you can change companies. You have to create social currency. You got to have some wins so people respect you. One of my favorite fast wins is actually to spend when I first got a job, I would spend my first quarter trying to make the site faster or the app faster because all your numbers go up when it's faster. Retention goes up, purchases go up, and nobody ever remembers to optimize it, so doing an optimization. And then once I got that win, I'll use it to buy other things I want to try to do. So social security is one. Network. You want friends everywhere, high and low. Always be nice to the admins because they have all the power. And the last one is take your time, do shuttle diplomacy, go around and talk to everybody, get them mind it. I find I really have to not be insulted when a VP or a CEO says my idea as if it was his. I'm like, I don't care. Just let it go. They probably don't even remember, but I got it in their ear. I did enough of an earworm that they are finally doing the things I want them to do. I actually gave a whole talk here about persuasion and getting things done, but it's really, you got to play the long game, but you can win it. And getting them to do OKRs, maybe they're not ready for that. Maybe you need some other things first. Sorry, kind of a long answer, but it's a hard problem. It's a real one.
I would just pick up on something you said, though, is like, I see this too, is the culture and the leadership is like, do they want to be honest and deal in reality, or do they want to play we're living in the fantasy world?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I
Totally.
don't know. It just seems like I could see someone trying to do OKRs when they're not really going to be honest and live in
Yeah.
reality. It's not going to work out, right?
Yeah, you don't want to rush into it. You do, if they are living in a fantasy world, I'm not sure you can do it, except you can do it for yourself. Instead of talking the CEO into doing OKRs, just do them among yourselves for clarity, because they make a big difference. Like I said, like I've gotten so much done. I've gotten 5 books written. Well, the first one didn't. I wasn't doing OKRs then. 4 books written with OKRs, and technically 1 more because I've been writing a fantasy book for fun last year. But the rhythm of them, the discipline of them. I have ADHD, so I super love the discipline of them. They really can be helpful. And yeah, if your boss is living in La La Land, don't involve them if you don't have to.
Anyone else got a question?
There's a question back there too. Yeah.
All right.
High tech.
The binary OKR. It's green or red.
Yeah.
I was paying attention.
None of that
You
decimal
were.
stuff. Okay. It's 80% on. Is that okay? All right. So after reading Radical Focus, when I installed the weekly cadence process in the last company, I'm really curious whether you've seen anybody trying, or what you would think about like as we're like assembling like each week, trying to come up with like what happened in the last week, and having everybody kind of provide demos wherever they can, and not have it just be a status report. We have so much like digital exhaust going on right now. There's transcripts of all the meetings. There's all the Slack conversations that
Yeah.
are going on. There's all this stuff, and people are struggling sometimes to come up with like what really happened during the week. And you're talking a little bit about there's this and trying to kind of think through there's this duality of you really want to. AI is good at summarizing and doing that kind of stuff, but you also want to really think things through and not lose the ability to be critical and know the details. I'm curious what your thought process is about how to like use that content and put it in the AI to try and inform it and get better results, or then are you really outsourcing the thinking of what happened, get the team to think about what they actually accomplished during the week?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So right now, my students are doing your classic synthesis process. You know, when you go out and you do research, you turn it all into Post-it notes, and then you organize the Post-it notes into affinity groups. I don't know if you've done this. Design thinking, fairy dust. But I said, and now once you've done all this, take a photo of it, upload it to Claude, and have it summarize it, and you pick out your own summarization and compare the two. And what's really nice is they'll come up with some insights that Claude doesn't. Claude will come up with some insights they don't. They'll figure out if Claude is smoking something or if it's fine, and then they'll make an insight, top 10 insights from that. So I think that training your memory by writing it down first of what you thought happened, and then have the AI remind you of all the amazing things you did, I think that would be a very big morale booster. There is one thing about your problem statement that worries me, though. It sounds like you're really spread thin. If you can't remember what you've been working on, the question is, are you working on too many things? And is that something to think about? Because I have to admit, when I'm doing lots and lots of things, by Friday I'm like, that only happened Monday? That feels like it was a month ago. So maybe it's time for a little radical focus, if I can drop the name. Something to think about. I think that's a great one. When you're not sure if you should do it with AI or not, do both. Do it with a human, do it with AI, and do a diff, and see how it lands. Yes? You're allowed.
So, I mean, one observation for sort of AI forward companies for product and tech seems to be that all of the roles are collapsing, right? So, and there's basically all of the processes go out the window as the first step, right? And then everybody is just huddling and doing prototypes and comparing, which is, a nice effect for product and tech to work together like that, and design as well, right? Everybody getting together and actually just creating things and seeing, throwing stuff at the wall. But it's literally this baby out with the bathwater that the entire process is gone, right?
Big
and
time.
so like this kind of thinking is like they're not even doing PRDs anymore. They're not even writing down who the user is.
Yeah.
Like let alone actually tracking the goals. Do you see anything like that?
Oh,
and how
I'm seeing
that
it all over the
develops?
place. I think we're going through an awkward adolescence where everybody's so excited by the tools that they're forgetting that there's good practices. Dan and I were talking about this, that we're seeing people leap to prototyping. I hate that they're using the word taste I thought I hated product sense, but I hate taste more, because I think the correct word is experience. Intuition is compressed experience. So, but once you've had good experience, like I can't imagine someone like you ever saying, let's skip user research. There are people who are very deeply grounded. And so the question is, how do we bring back in our practices while respecting the power that AI gives us? How do we start pulling it back together again? I am telling the designers I know, like, let's get back to sketching, because you can do drawings of a layout and upload it to Claude and it'll know what the layout is, and that takes seconds. Any way we can make synthesis a little faster is useful. I think, God, it makes me crazy. I think fast is not a virtue. Fast is a strategy. Sometimes you have to move fast, sometimes you have to move slow. But right now we're in a crazy making time, so we have to just play, experiment, figure out what the answer is, and we're all trying to figure it out together, really. So I think you can't stop the craziness, but you could hopefully bring sense back in. Maybe they'll have to ship something that fails utterly before they learn. Sometimes you have to let them do that. It's like parenting. Sometimes you have to have them fall out of the shopping cart to learn that you should stand up in a shopping cart. Not that I did that.
I learned that lesson for the first time here at Intuit. My boss, I was like we were trying to improve the UI, and it clearly wasn't working. And I was like, but it's going to be, and my boss was just like, sometimes you got to let people fail. And then after that failed, then everyone realized there was a problem, and we had a lot of buy-in. So, but I want to go back to what you were saying real
Sometimes
quick.
you're wrong.
What's that?
And sometimes you're wrong.
Sure. No, we had data. We knew it was like,
Oh, you knew.
it's like we,
Let it go.
instead of stopping and trying to stop the train, like let this, anyway. So, but back to the other thing you were saying, it's on the vibe coding front, it's very interesting with this AI is like at first, all the tools were about expediency, getting you to that first prototype as quickly as possible. And then they realized that people are kind of just getting something, but it's not good. So now the tools themselves, I remember I was running a vibe coding workshop, and it used to be you put in your prompt, you wait a couple minutes, and then you get a mock-up.
Yeah.
And everybody did that. And then there's no mock-up. I'm like, oh, shoot, was there a bug? It's like, no. It's like, hey, hold on. Before I do this prototype, I have a couple questions for you. Like, they're slowing themselves. They're slowing their own tools down, their own process down, just to, like, ask to prompt the user to think more deeply. Right? It's kind of interesting.
I found also it helps if you put in your instructions, either at the system level or project level, to put in the instructions saying, ask me, these are the 5 questions you should make me ask me before you let me build anything. In my case, I just ask clarifying questions, and that's been fine for me, but I've been doing this a very long time. So that's something that you can do with your younger product managers and younger designers is say, okay, you're going to paste these 5 into your instructions. And I will tell you, Claude asks me, anytime I'm doing anything, goes, what's your audience? I'm like, oh, fuck. Again? Okay, here's what my audience is. I finally went into structures and say, I mostly talk to designers and product managers. But it gets fierce. It gets good at learning what you should do first. So it's not, as long as you don't ask for answers. I've been happy with it.
I have a question about the new, like OKR for the new products, like from scratch. And like, I wonder, like, how do you approach in that case? And
Is Notebook LM. Oh, I didn't open it ahead of time. So one of the first things I did, I don't know how many of you use Notebook LM. Oh, there it is. I already had it open. But a big fan. And I think what Notebook LM is really good at is taking huge amounts of data and pulling out insights from it. I'm sure Claude Code could do it too, but I really like the fact that you can get a podcast out of it, you can get charts, you get data. And so what I have been doing is I've been using personal OKRs to run my life since I don't even know when, like easily 15 years, I think, which is really freaky because I can't believe it's 2026. But yeah, so I used it even before I wrote my book, and my book came out in 2016, so maybe not 15, maybe 12, but still. And personal OKRs are basically, what's the number one thing I want to do as an individual this quarter? And then I have my ways of measuring it. And I wrote these in email, and I was able to get Gemini, actually I used Claude to pull out all my status emails. And what it's really good at is things like, here's what a status email looks like. Sometimes it has a different subject line, find them all. So I found them all, saved them as PDFs, uploaded them all. So this is, like I said, 12, 15 years of status updates. And now I can ask questions of it, which is pretty amazing. So if you're trying to do memory, quizzing works really well because you look at it and you try to figure out what the answer is, and then you look at the answer the next time you know it. So it activates your memory as well. So guessing is really good. It's not a bad thing. You just want it to be as informed as humanly possible.
We have a few questions from Zoom. The first was, from Prashant. Do you have any guidance on how AI can help with KR check-ins?
Interesting question. I think they're mostly human, right? I mean, a KR check-in is when you're meeting up with people and saying, are we closer or further? You could potentially put in your status, as long as it had enough data, and say, are we closer or farther? But I think I would rather just teach my gut.
Yeah, and I get the sense that they're pretty brief too, right? Like it's just like matter of fact, right?
I mean, other than, I only do the Monday.
Yeah.
So if there's a KR check-in that's other than the classic Monday, we're closer, we're farther, we're closer, we're farther,
Got
closer,
it.
farther. Yeah, they're really, really brief. So even opening up AI is probably not worth it.
Got it.
But maybe before, when you're prepping, you could ask AI, okay, my confidence is down. How do I say this without my boss screaming at me? You could totally do that.
I was about to say, how can you spin these? Help me spin these.
I mean, you've seen how good these guys
Yeah.
talk. Claude, ChatGPT, they're good at spinning it. So maybe when you have to admit your confidence is dropping, it can find you the most politic way of saying it. Like I said, I'm very blunt and I need all the help I can get.
Cool. And then more of a question, a comment, than a question. Can you return for a talk on how ADHD affects your product development approach and vice versa? I'm in your target audience for that. Somebody
Oh
said.
my God. Yeah, when I get my personal OKR talk put together, because I have so many tricks and approaches that I use to try to manage my, shiny object syndrome. You remember in Homer Simpson's like, oh my God, that man's my exact double. Oh my God, that's a dog with a fluffy tail. Fluffy tail, fluffy tail. And I feel like that describes ADHD or possibly from squirrel. So I have to do so much to get stuff done, to get stuff finished. So I get it.
And one other one from Zoom is someone that works with clients on OKRs. They asked, have you ran into resistance from your clients in the use of AI because of privacy concerns?
I didn't see any. I've only started doing it with my last Maven cohort where we went through and we did AI and talked about it, and they didn't have any issues. I think that there are ways to do it. Right now, like Kimi K2 is of such a high quality that you could run a local model and work that way if you had high privacy concerns. Other than that, I don't have a lot of good answer because, it's still SaaS, and SaaS is always a little insecure. And I don't think that Sam Altman's staying up all night worrying about SOC 2 or HIPAA or anything. So maybe HIPAA now, they're going into medicine more.
So on-prem is back. Okay. Okay. Any other questions in the room? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just heard that it sounds like the OKRs for yourself is a whole other class, but I would like to ask, since you exposed the idea of you sending your personal OKRs in a weekly status, who do you send that to? Is that something you journal for yourself, or do you have a partner or group?
When I first started, I did it with my coach. I'm happy to talk about personal OKRs. That's a talk I probably should have given anyway, because it's super fascinating, at least to people I talk to. I'm like, okay. So I first started out sending it to my coach. I hired a coach. Hiring a coach is like one of the best things I've ever done for myself. Really amazing woman, Andrea Corney. She works in the Stanford graduate school in the touchy-feely class. She's awesome. I would send it to her. But then some of my friends were interested in what I was doing, so we set up a little group there's 4 of us right now. And I basically, every Monday, I just send my stuff out to them, and they go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that. And then they send in theirs, and they go, oh yeah, okay, 2 of them come in. And so it's a really good nudge for everybody. And a couple weeks when I forgot, because I got so busy, somebody else nudged me. But accountability groups are great. I think a group of 3 or 4 is about right. It's small enough to be intimate, but you don't want just 2. I know a lot of people talk about having accountability partners, and I find that when you have just 2, there's not enough redundancy in case of failure. So yeah, every single Monday we send each other, and every so often we get on a Zoom together and talk about life. I will tell you, you send each other personal OKRs for 3 or 4 years and you get so close. You just become your besties. So in fact, when I think about making OKR software for personal OKRs, I'm like, I have to build in a way to do accountability partner matching, because I feel like that'd be absolutely critical. You need a human. It's not enough for Claude to warn you. You got to have somebody who would feel guilty if you forgot.
All right, we'll do another Zoom one then. So, someone picked up on the watermelon thing I was saying, the status where it's like green on the outside, but it's really red, right? Mm-hmm. They said, how do you help transition out of a watermelon mindset with OKRs?
I think that's a problem for psychological safety rather than OKRs. If you're in a watermelon situation, you need to lower your goals to when you think you can make it. And I hate that, but sometimes it is necessary to sandbag a little bit. But transitioning out. The fact is, I'm not sure you can do, I should say it, I'm not sure you can do OKRs if you're in a psychologically unsafe planet. I don't think you can do OKRs if you don't have strategy. I think there are a lot, OKRs are what sits on top of a healthy, powerful organization, and it could be a mini group inside of a large, unhealthy organization. There have been little groups that use them effectively, but if you're in the middle of dysfunction, I think you have to work on removing the dysfunction, which, like I said, is a long game.
Well, one pattern I'm seeing is the O's and maybe even the KRs come from leadership, and they're given to the team.
Yep.
So they're given impossible. Back to your thing about lowering the bar, they're
Yeah.
not allowed to, because
No.
that wouldn't be
That's where
yeah.
I don't, it's like when Wells Fargo age is great. It's just the same thing. You are going to get gaming. If you ask for impossible things, you're going to get gaming. If people offer up to impossible things and they know it's okay if they fail, you won't get gaming. So it's OKR theater,
Right.
It
Cool.
just is.
Any other questions here? We got one more from Zoom if people
And
want
we
to.
got one in person too.
Okay. The other one from Zoom is, what level of involvement feels right to you from designers and engineers when setting project KRs?
And an equal share. I really think that the classic product trio are who should be figuring out the OKRs, maybe a larger group even. It's hard to do things by committee, but you could ask everybody, what do you think our objective key result set is? And then now you have AI. I used to say you could have an intern. Now you can have AI say, here are the patterns, and this is what we see. The hallucinations have dropped quite a bit. You still get occasional ones, but it's so much better than it used to be. And the next models will be even better. People are really working hard on hallucinations. But then you can look at the patterns and pick it out of that.
I was just curious, you mentioned to be wary when you use AI because you don't want it to always do all your thinking for you. I was just curious, I think it's human nature to lean into what's easy.
Oh, yeah. Our brains are they're calorie hogs. And so our brains really try to not use any more energy than it has to. And that's why we have habits and stuff like that.
So I was
100%.
wondering if you had like principles or a framework that you personally try to adhere to try to intentionally add back in the friction rather than just trying to outsource.
Basically, I've used instructions and projects to make Claude kind of a little bit of an asshole. Every time I see myself being lazy, if I catch it, I'll go in and I'll write in the instructions, change this. And so now I'm starting to work with Claude Code, and it can actually write files to my folder. I have it update Claude MD when I notice something's going on, or I always ask it to write a summary, and I ask it what went right, what went wrong as well, of what the session we just had. Sometimes I forget, but mostly I remember. It's really about the practice of trying to update Claude's memory. I hope eventually we'll have true memory and we won't be doing kludgy things like having Claude MD. It'll automatically update Claude MD or whatever's appropriate, but we're not quite there yet.
One hack that I've heard is,
Yeah.
after you have a long session, you can be like, hey, reflect on the session. What things should we now add to the memory file or to the MD file?
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Also, did we get lost? You can kind of have a gut feeling about how it went, and you can ask it about that.
Okay, we got another one on Zoom. Let's see. How do you help orgs move from top-down OKRs to balanced top-down/bottom-up OKRs? Can AI help with this?
AI can't help with it. Well, no, I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. So there's this really amazing idea, which is creating digital twins for your bosses. And if it's a very famous company, you can make a digital twin for the CEO, or you can show it emails from your boss or from the CEO and say, okay, now pretend you're boss. Now that I've given it enough context to hopefully know boss, or I can just I can type in and repeat things I've noticed. You can create new text in the files and say, okay, I'm going to be pitching this. Now act like my boss and respond to it. And that can be really powerful. I think that simulations are one of the things AI is incredible at, and we don't use it enough. Like even I didn't think of it for a few seconds, and I was like, wait, simulations works really well. If you have data to feed it, of course. If you don't have data to feel it, you might just say, be a random asshole. I think we're winding down.
We got one more on Zoom here. Zoom people are active. Thank you, Zoom folks. Prashant has another one. How will AI know if a KR which is marked green might actually be red or yellow?
that's what's so important about projects. And the question is, do you want to turn on memory or not? Which is why I'm slowly moving more towards cloud code so I can keep things local instead. And then I don't have to turn on memory. But if you feed it your status emails, it probably will know. But it takes a certain level of context. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's ever going to jump up and say, hey, you're a watermelon. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could help.
I think one thing it could do is if you asked it to track over time, like if you were giving it all of your KR updates, it could just be like, hey, that hasn't gone up. Like, that's the thing, or hasn't gotten better or something. I don't know. It's been static for a while.
Now that we're vibe coding, we can start setting something up like that. We could build a little program with a vibe code to say, I want you to run this, every 2 weeks and tell me X, Y, Z. I have not touched code since 1998, and so I've been doing it now, and I'm actually making working programs, including a little script that searches. This is so exciting for me. Made a little script that searches a bunch of different academic databases, and then sends me the ones that are relevant to my interests, and gives me summaries and why it matters, and explains the jargon to me. And I was just like, oh my God, I am a goddess now. I have superpowers. So the more you use it, the more you start seeing things that you could do with it. So I think, I don't remember if it was Claire Vaux or not, but somebody said, put up a little Post-it note on your monitor and say, could this be done with AI? And then just practice trying it and then evaluate the results. And you wouldn't believe the things that you can start doing. It really is miraculous. It's not perfect, God knows, but it's really exciting.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Christina. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Let's switch back.